The HS2 railway project was originally planned to cost around £37 billion, and its first phase was going to open, believe it or not, next year. But today the government announced that there is, quote, no route to have services operating even by 2033. The project, which was originally due to run between London and Birmingham and then on to Manchester and Leeds, has been severely cut by consecutive governments due to its spiralling costs. And today's announcement is yet another setback for the project, which has been delayed many times and has already cost the taxpayer billions of pounds. Well, joining me now is Christian Wolmar, who's a leading railway expert and the presenter of the Calling All Stations podcast. Christian, I'm going to guess that you are not surprised, or at least you haven't been surprised by today's announcement.
No, I'm afraid not. Everything I ever hear about the HS2 project is bad news. And the report that the government is issuing today just confirms the way that it's, as it were, gone off the rails. So there's been no proper project management, nobody kind of looking after the costs. Nobody really, right from the beginning, has been clear about what exactly this project is for. And then, of course, we've ended up paying vastly more for what is much diminished railway. As you said, it's no longer going to go to Leeds or Manchester. It's just going to be what I've called the Acton to Aston shuttle. There's no clear plan to see what happens at Euston. So even that isn't included in the present scope of the project. And it's really difficult to see whether even a new date of something like 2036 will it even be met?
The fundamental problem, Christian, wasn't it that a high-speed rail service was fundamentally wrong for a country the size of the UK, wasn't it? It was never going to be value for money because the distances aren't long enough, aren't great enough, so the time saved will never be worth it.
Well, it's not only in terms of time saved, it's also in terms of capacity. There's a lot of demand for travel on the railways, and until COVID, it had been increasing. But yes,
we could have increased capacity without making a high-speed line. Is what I'm getting at.
Well, that was always my argument, because I've been opposed to the scheme, and certainly there would be cheaper ways to do it. But until the COVID experience, railway use was going up, and there was a need for that extra capacity. But the thing is, we never needed a 400 kilometre per hour railway. Across the world, high speed is 300 kilometres per hour. And even that might, as you suggest, be a bit excessive for a relatively small country like ours. We could have designed a cheaper version of a new railway that would have been easier and simpler to build. But instead, we got hooked on this, it's got to be the greatest railway in the world sort of idea. And at the end of the day, it's kind of a very, very sad indictment of the British ability to deliver a project like this.
And as current plans stand, where do you think that HS2 will run? From where to where exactly? And when do you think it'll start running?
Well, I think that ultimately they will have to build it through to Euston, because you can't really have a railway, a high-speed railway that starts 4 miles outside Euston, Old Oak Common, which is slightly in the middle of West London and not very reachable except by a new Elizabeth line connection. And they will have to, I think, to make it worthwhile, build it through to Crewe and then Manchester, even though that part of the project has been scrapped. But, Grant, it's already going to cost £7 billion a year for the next 4 years just to get this project keeping operating, and that won't even complete it. So it's just a money sink, but there's no easy way out for the government on this, because scrapping it would leave a whole lot of infrastructure, 10-mile tunnels, 2-mile viaducts, all sorts of other embankments and stuff in the countryside with no purpose. And I don't think that is actually feasible to do that.
And you mentioned the link to Euston, Christian. Euston Station is very close to the studio here at ITV News. Hundreds of thousands of passengers will be will know that area very well when they make their journeys north. To this day, there's a giant hole in the ground where nothing is happening at Euston Station. And the government doesn't have a plan still, apparently, for what to do with that space. There's nothing happening there. It's a symbol of failure, isn't it?
That's right. I happen to cycle through that area kind of most days, and there's still roadworks on it. There's still blockages, but there's actually no work being carried out at all. And they demolished a perfectly good council estate, a hotel, various other buildings, flattened it, and there's no plan. And now this is, of course, in Keir Starmer's very own constituency. So it's a big embarrassment for him. Now, the plan is to get some sort of new Euston regeneration project going, with the idea then of building some sort of station, because they're going to need to do that. But there's no clear plan for it at all at the moment. And so we've just got this embarrassing bomb site of several acres in central London.
Can the least that can be said about the government's announcement today is that, in contrast to previous government's announcements, it is sort of realistic in terms of it doesn't have any deeply wrong costings incorporated within it, or hopelessly optimistic targets?
I think that's right. At least it's an acceptance that this is a scheme that is in great difficulty and there's no easy fix to it. They've got a new chief executive, Mark Wilde, running it. He was the person who actually finished the Crossrail project when that got into difficulty, now the very successful Elizabeth line. So that's a positive. But, it is just going to absorb a vast amount of government money that could be spent on other things. And as I suggest, there's no kind of simple solution, but at least they're drawing up a roadmap as to how to deal with it. But they've got to act quickly. They can't just let this meander on. They need better kind of project management, ensuring that the costs just don't keep on going up, and just get building it in the quickest way and cheapest way possible.
The question I've got written down here for you, Christian, as I was planning this, was that should the whole project just be scrapped? Is there still an argument for doing that and starting again with something else? But it sounds like your answer is no, and you still think there's some value in trying to build something that looks at least a little bit like the original plan.
I think that's right, and it's not an easy decision to make. I accept that they're going to throw a lot of good money after bad, but just look at it in terms of UK PLC. Other countries, France, Germany, Japan, China, even Morocco and Turkey have built high-speed lines effectively, and they're running well, and they're a source of great pride. Imagine if the UK was left with an assortment of embankments and tunnels and viaducts that were just sitting in the countryside for decades as a sign of how we can't do things. And, once it's built, the money will largely be forgotten, just as it has with Crossrail, now the Elizabeth line, which is highly successful. I don't think HS2 will ever be that successful, but at least they'll be running, good modern trains up to Birmingham and hopefully beyond. So it's not an easy choice, but I don't think that we can just scrap it, even though my view right from the start was that it shouldn't be built. But now they've done this amount of work, they have to go on with it.
OK, so better days. Well, who knows how many years ahead? Christian Wolmar.
We certainly hope so.
Yes. Christian, many thanks for joining us. We're grateful for your time and your expertise. Thank you.